So, my next guest is Steve Krull, founder of Be Found Online, a Northwestern grad. Become a good friend. I've used some of our clients have worked with him in the past regarding search engine optimization and search engine marketing. Steve, after several years working across a variety of clients and industries together, Steve Krull launched Be Found Online with business partner Dan Golden. As a rule, Steve likes to foster a customer-first mindset and believes that the Be Found's philosophy of strong customer service coupled with high online marketing IQ is a great fit for clients. So when he's not thinking about the online space, he likes to do most anything outdoors. And he likes to attend Cubs game, as painful as that has been over the last 100 and some plus years. I would like to bring Steve up, a very good friend of mine and a very good speaker, and I think you'll get a lot out of this session. Thanks.
Thank you, Jim. I'd like to thank Michael and Larry and Krista and Brian as well for everything speaking before and laying the groundwork. I did not see Larry's presentation before I submitted mine. I saw it for the first time when he did it. But to know that somebody who does this for an organization like Molex and I are on the same page in so many different ways makes so much sense to me. We see this all the time. We see it every day. People look at us and say, what is social media? What is B2B? It's all about people planning backyard barbecues on Facebook. It's all about connecting and trying to find a job on LinkedIn. And what is this Twitter thing that I heard is going to die again and again and again? It hasn't died, has it? People are spending money to advertise on this platform, folks. It's crazy. It might not sound like it should be true, but it's true. So I'll give you a little bit about who I am, and I'll dive in. I'm going to stay at kind of a high level here because Jim Cahill is going to dive in deeper and talk about really what it means, practical application of social media. He's in the trenches all day long. He's working around the world with Emerson and people on his team to make sure they get the message out. Not just any message, but the right message. A little bit about me. Yep, I'm a Cubs fan and Northwestern grad. Thanks, Jim, for the intro. Quick things about us and the agenda. Be Found Online has been around unofficially for about 6 years, officially for about 3 years. We call ourselves a boutique online marketing agency. We've got clients that range from mom and pops to the Fortune 500, B2C, B2B. We're sort of agnostic that way. We think that search is portable, and we want to learn your business so that we can port search to the business. Today we're going to tap into social media. I'm going to build on some of the things that Larry said and try and tap into some of the things that Michael said in terms of being an engineer. So really, social stats. Where are we? What's social media look like right now? What is social media? What myths are out there? What do we all think? What do we all hate that we see every day out in social media? You go out onto LinkedIn or you go out onto Twitter, people are trying to sell you crap all the time. And you get annoyed, and you're not sure if you should unfollow them. Wait, I know this guy. He's in industry contact, but all he does is sell me stuff on Twitter. You like those guys? I can't stand them. I know there's some of us in the room. Sometimes you sort of have to do it. It's not what you need to do. There's a right way to go about this stuff. Social media is not about sales, and we'll get into that. At the end of the day, yeah, it's about counting. You got to light the lamp, right? You've got to sell some stuff. So we'll get into that a little bit too. So then we're going to talk about Bob. I like to call him Bob Stickman, and you'll find out in a little while. And then we'll have a story about Bob, and then we'll talk about putting that strategy in action at a high level. This is when you're talking about somebody who oversees the Asian team for Larry, who's planning their social media strategy. What is it that we're going to do? What are we going to do today, tomorrow, next week, and for the whole year to identify, engage, and acquire that audience? All right, let's dive in. And then I got my questions from Jim to talk about at the end as well. I'll save those 2 questions till the end, and we can ask a few more as well. All right, so some quick stats here. 2012 it is. How many people, 48% of people are combining social media and search engines in their search. When I did this slide originally, this was a big red block. But I thought to myself, Google, or the Google, wants to change the game again. So where people are blending it, right? I start in Google. Google started universal search. They started blending in local search results. They started blending in some of the social stuff. Bing and Facebook have a love affair now, so Bing search results are littered with Facebook results, right? They're blending social media into search. Google is trying to take this to the next step. And anybody familiar with Google Plus? Got pages out there, playing with it a lot? Working for you, not working for you, still waiting to make a buck? All right. There's a lot of value there. The way Google's doing it, they're really pushing the overlap in search and social. And what I drew the arrows is Google wants to blur this line. I'm an SEO by trade, and Google's job right now is to try and put me out of business. They want me to have no impact on a customer's website at all. That's what they're trying to do. They want everything to be driven by your friends, your world, your likes, your dislikes, and your search behavior, which is why we all have Google accounts now. Google tracks everything we do, which is cool. It can get really, really personal, right? If I go search Zappos 3 weeks ago, well, Zappos drops a cookie. Google knows where I went. Man, advertising follows me all over the interweb, doesn't it? Everywhere you go, if you start looking for it, you see, wait a minute, I'm on some weird engineering forum, and I've got this Zappos ad following me. It happens all the time. We don't realize it. Retargeting and remarketing advertising, we won't get into that today, immensely successful. Those things do great. It's Google's way of finding more money. 23 million people discovered new brands and products through social media last year. Not bad. There's a lot going on. And as Larry pointed out, the number's growing. His study was about a year and a half old. Those numbers are going to be doubling. Now you can look at the online studies, you can look at the offline stuff. Every study is going to read a little different. 66% of B2B marketers have implemented or will be implementing a social media strategy. Where did they do it? Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, right? That's where we all go. That's where we try to make hay. How many people are happy? About half is what the studies say. So people aren't getting what they want from their social media campaigns. Now, you always can ask the question of, do we know what it is they do want? Larry talked about goals. What are their goals? What are your objectives? What do you want from your campaign? Well, what's wrong with these campaigns? What's wrong with the way we're looking at social media? Well, it's strategy. What are we trying to do? How many people do you see? We'll talk about sales guy, which we did before, but their social media strategy is, Steve, we just need to be out there. Your job is to get us out there. What I want you to do, find some blog posts, repost those. Post that on LinkedIn, post that on Twitter. That's it, get out there and do that. Start there, and we'll talk in a few weeks. And I want a strategy, too. Well, poor Steve doesn't have a whole ton of social marketing background, and Steve goes out and does what his boss says, and Steve goes out and posts for a couple weeks. Boss comes back in a few weeks. How are we doing, Steve? Oh, we posted 16 times, and somebody said hi, and I got 8 followers. Great. Well, what are you doing? We'll figure that out later. So let's go into social myths and why Steve's got a problem in the way his boss is trying to tell him how to market to everybody here in the room. Well, first of all, it's not PR. Yeah, there's a PR component to it. Krista would throw something at me if I said there wasn't. There absolutely is, but it's not just about, we have a brand new product, and we're selling canned cheese, and it's a press release. And they put it on their blog, and they put it on their website, and then that's all they tweet. And they put it on LinkedIn because they don't think you saw it on Twitter. It's everywhere. It follows you, like the ads. Social media is not about sales. And again, people should throw stuff at me if this was the de facto. It's not the de facto. Social media is about broadening your pipeline to create sales opportunity. It's not a direct sales channel. Yeah, some people in the B2C space can. We did a lot of Facebook advertising in the weight loss space last year. Killed it. Killed it. It was great. But it doesn't work for everybody. It's not for everyone. It's not one size fits all. We drove leads. We drove valuable leads, and they were great. But can we do that everywhere? Can we do that in the B2B space? If you're looking for, oil purification devices? No, you can't do that in B2B. You're not going to do that on Facebook. Social media is not about B2B. I lost my image. It's not about B2B. I mean, you guys can argue with me. Go ahead. But it's about relationships. It's back to creating a connection with the audience. Who is your audience? Larry touched on it. He went pretty deep into finding your audience. Is it industry? Where does it go? How does it cross over and who, right? So think about it. It's about relationships, right? this person's not gonna buy anything from somebody they don't know. Michael talked about face-to-face. I work in a virtual world, online company. I can work and live anywhere in the world. Nothing beats a handshake and a face-to-face meeting. To this day, many of you know that already. I'm preaching to the choir if I say something like that. Social media is one of our facilitators for creating those relationships. Thinking about how we want to create those relationships and what we want those relationships to become is the key. So this is my cheater version of sort of an online sales cycle. And I will say, by the way, and this was, all of the images are hand-drawn. It was just sort of the thing I had to do for this. I realized Jim was nice enough to let me modify the presentation template as well. I just felt like I didn't want to put a bunch of data and a bunch of bullet points up there. You guys are looking at bullet points all the time, and PowerPoint gets lost, right? We stare at the data, and you've got some guy up there, I'm talking, and I'm going, and I'm going, and I'm going, and bullet point number 14 says, I don't want to be that guy. I want to be somebody who engages everybody here. We have a conversation about this, and by the way, if you have questions, throw up your hand. I'll answer them along the way until Jim throws a tomato at me, because he's next. So if you do have something, let's talk about that. So we want to reach the consumer at all of these quick touch points, right? When the consumer's out exploring, what are they doing? This is when they've got an idea. What problem do they need to solve? Do I need a portable HVAC unit for this? Do they have those? What are they? I mean, we all know that these things exist, right? But they're going to go out there and they're going to do some hunting. They're going to use Google. They'll check out Facebook. There's probably some LinkedIn. There's probably some other stuff. Trade mags are up here. I focus mostly on online, but most of this stuff can be taken offline as well. If you think that offline is not part of this media mix, I think you're wrong. Sometimes it's a little harder to measure, but we've seen it by accident with a client who turned off their marketing in New York and didn't tell us. And then talked about their online marketing dollars and how come we weren't converting online. And, well, it just so happens that about 25% of their traffic comes from the New York market. And we found out 2 weeks later, after digging through the data, nothing made sense. We were able to spend money, we were able to attract, but the volume was down. It was crazy. Well, they turned off their traditional in that market. They just shut it down and didn't tell anybody. Well, we found out by a happy accident. Well, it wasn't our fault, which was great. We'll take responsibility if it is, but it was a miss on their part. So customer gets a little bit of a nugget. They want to learn something. They go into research mode. We've all done it. Roll up your sleeves. You need to find 16 websites that all say the same thing before you make a decision, or you need to ask your friends about it. Go out there. You check Google Plus out here. That's the new kid on the block. You might go out there. Not a lot of great data there yet, but there are companies popping up every day. And I would suggest if you haven't done a land grab on Google Plus yet, that you do it. It's going to be around. We don't have a choice. People hit the control engineering groups on LinkedIn. They go out there. Immensely popular group. What is it? It's grown 25% since the beginning of the year. Added 5,000 users. It's crazy. Everybody's out there communicating, collaborating. Why? I don't see them trying to sell anything. They're answering questions. They're helping the community. That's why. We go out to YouTube. We look for videos. We look for information, right? And we finally purchase, and Circuits R Us I'll talk about that in a little while when I get to my buddy Bob Stickman. But we purchased something. It's not over when we purchase anymore, is it? It never was. When you bought the 55-inch LED TV, you told all your neighbors. You told them how good a deal H.H. Gregg gave you, right? You came home, you set it up. Oh, the game looks great. Or you're watching your movies. What are you going to do with that information? You're going to connect. Now it's an online world. I'm still telling my neighbors that I got my TV, or I bought my, we had the portable HVAC unit, right? Portable cooler, brought it in. Well, we had the big data center, and we brewed in there, cooled that thing off 15 degrees. You wouldn't believe it. We tell everybody. We tell people. What did I get? How good was the experience? This is where you get to. This is what happens. You go out on all these places. If somebody answers a question for me on the CFE group on LinkedIn, and it's a great answer, think I'm going to keep it to myself, especially if I'm active in social media? I'm not. I'm going to tell people. I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell people about it. That's what we do. We're natural communicators if we give ourselves a chance, especially those of us that like to hide behind a keyboard. They communicate more than the rest of us who like people. All right. Let's talk about Bob. That's my buddy Bob Stickman. So, Bob's probably trying to solve a problem, right? Okay, Bob has a question about electrical circuits, and he needs to find advice. Bob's going out on the interwebs. He's going to answer some questions, right? Am I going Facebook? What am I looking for? What's Bob going after? I got a question about circuits. I really don't know where to turn. He's going to check out what his friends are doing. Facebook, little Twitter, little Google. He ends up on LinkedIn. Great. Sees the CFE group and asks a question, or he asks the same question on Twitter or LinkedIn. Maybe he's got 2,000 Twitter followers that are all in a similar area. Great, he can get questions and answers that way. But Bob's got a problem. So Bob goes out, and I'm going to use, nice to my host, but the idea is that Bob's going to go out and ask his question in the control engineering group. Bob goes out and says, hey, I've got a question. Joe from Circuits R Us answers Bob's question, didn't try to sell him anything. Said, Bob, here's the information. Here's what you need to know. Hope this helps solve your problem. Well, Joe directs Bob to a video on YouTube. I was going to have a contest to see if you guys could tell me what kind of circuit that was, but you can figure it out later. I'm sure half the room knows. But he sends him to YouTube, to a video that shows him exactly what Bob needs to do. This isn't a circuit, well, it shouldn't be, it doesn't have to be a Circuits R Us video. Oops. It doesn't have to be a Circuits R Us video. It can be anybody's video that Joe knows about that's going to answer Bob's question. Because what's Joe trying to do? Is Joe trying to sell him a circuit? No, Joe's trying to answer a question right now. If he sells him a circuit, that's great. That's a bonus. But right now he's trying to make a friend. So Joe did a lot more than answer Bob's question. He became a source of information, right? He moved on. Well, over time, these guys got to know each other. They're buddies on Twitter and Facebook. They find out that they're Phillies fans, they like craft beer, and they all play StarCraft, right? So they get on StarCraft games together and they hang out on Tuesday nights when everybody else has gone home, right? They're bonding. These guys are getting information, sharing information. Well, now what happens? Next time Bob needs something on the electrical components, where's he going? He's going right to Joe or Circuits R Us, because Joe is now Circuits R Us. Bob created a one-on-one relationship with Joe, which translated to the relationship with Joe's company. So now Bob inherently trusts Circuits R Us. Guess what? His friends do too, because in that last part, that sharing part, Bob shared this stuff. Circuits R Us saved my bacon. My boss was yelling at me. I couldn't get this thing running. I had some questions. I couldn't find answers. Bob solved his problem. All right. So that's Bob. That's how Bob went about solving his problem. That's the right way to solve a problem in social media. The first way, if Bob's going out, if we talk about Twitter as the sales tool or Facebook with blind posting about buy this, buy that, Bob's not getting any questions answered. None at all. So we're in here. Here's social media, right? You can shout at 100 people right now on social media if you decide to. What are you going to do if 30 turn around? You have a plan? 30 people turn around and say, wait a minute. Oh, wait, they're actually listening. What do I do now? This is where it comes down to what Larry touched on earlier. It's about planning. What are you doing with your teams? What does your integrated marketing plan look like? But in this case, what does your social media plan look like? What do you understand? What do you see? Hey, where'd my... I lost another picture. It was there before, I swear. It's a Gantt chart that talks to what your plan should be. What you need to have is a plan that talks about what you're doing, where you're posting, what you're posting, and when. And this doesn't even include customer engagement. So I might have a posting schedule, and I have an article series that my content team is developing, and I know what's going to be published on our blog, and I can take that, and I can turn that into Twitter, and I can turn it into a little bit of Facebook and some YouTube. I'm of the opinion that one piece of content can be 6 or 8 different things if used properly. You don't have to recreate content for everything that you want to do. If you've got a 5-minute video, cut that bad boy into 90-second chunks, break it up, write a blog post about it, put one of them on Twitter, put another one on Facebook, build it, put them all on your website, spread, broaden the message, give people access to the information in 6 places. They'll come back. That's what that Gantt chart is. But really, what is that Gantt chart trying to do? It's trying to give you a roadmap for engaging these people, ultimately solving their problems, and if we're lucky, we're going to sell something at the end of the day, which is part of the goal here. But really, it's engaging our customers, even our prospects, people who might not even know we exist. These people have questions. We want to provide the answers. So what are we going to do? No gimmicks. Schmaltzy sales material, robots in Twitter following and auto-replying, goofy things like that. All they do is get you locked out of people's accounts. You lose friends so fast that way. I could show you some case studies of some tests that we did because it was fun. Wanted to see how many Twitter followers you could buy. I can buy you 500,000 Twitter followers in a month. And some people's bosses want to see number of followers. I argue, I want to see engagement. The social media tools now show us engagement. They show us reach. There's so many tools out there that'll tell you what's going on, who's talking about your brand, who's talking about your product. You can get the data. It's out there. Going beyond analytics, which is what Larry dove into, there are tools out there, Radian 6, SM2, for social media that allow you to dive into your brand, mentions of your brand, anywhere on the interwebs. There are things that allow you to dive into forums where people are having conversations to collect information. More of that information you have, back to the point Larry made about data, the more intelligent decisions you can make about your social media strategy. Okay, let's talk about the tools themselves. We'll keep this pretty simple because really they don't have to be that complicated. Engage your audience on Facebook. Get out there, be part of the community. Facebook is not a place to sell lots of stuff. It's still a place for questions and answers, and it's evolving still. The whole B2B marketplace idea on Facebook is a little foreign to a lot of folks, but there are still places to hang your shingle and do some good work. Understanding your audience again. Who's on Facebook? Well, again, that's what we all use for backyard barbecues, right? We typically go out there and we find our old high school classmates, our old high school girlfriends or boyfriends, right? And we end up, along the way, finding our business contacts and our friends, the people that we see every day in our line of work. We go out on Twitter and Facebook, and we find them. They're saying interesting stuff. Wow, I had no idea that guy was so interesting. You know, that's when you find out he's a Phillies fan, and oh, by the way, you happen to be too, so that's all good stuff. Twitter. Find and follow. Search and respond. The biggest failure I find on Twitter is people aren't listening. You can put your ear to the ground or your head in the sand. It's your choice. Put your ear to the ground. Find out what people are saying. Maybe not about your brand. Competitors, industry, something in general. You can set up streams to listen on Twitter, and you should. If you follow me on Twitter, I don't say a whole lot. I am eavesdropping all the time. I've got 4 Twitter handles that I monitor regularly for different aspects of the things I want to learn, and I go out there and read that stuff. If I want to learn something more, I'll DM one of the people that I follow because I want more insight or more depth into what they're saying. I'm not a chronic poster. Now, if I was doing something more specific in terms of marketing for Be Found Online, I would be more specific in my tweets. I'd be more engaging. If you look at Be Found Online, we do a lot more of that. Steve Krull's not that. I'm not going to do that. I want to get relevant information. I'm trying to answer one of those questions, right? I'm doing a little research. I'm doing a little homework. I'm buying something. LinkedIn, participate in group discussions, especially on control engineering. Go out there. But no, there's all sorts of groups, user groups, interest groups. Yahoo Answers is pretty useful as well. The idea is get out there and engage in these communities. LinkedIn answers and questions, these guys are great. There's a ton of questions being asked every day, not only in this group, but other groups that might be of interest to all of you in the room. People are solving problems. There's information out there. And if the problem is not posted on the group, there's usually a friendly note that pushes you off to a blog post or a YouTube video that helps you answer the question or solve the problem. YouTube, again, my rule for YouTube, no commercials unless they're really, really cool. A lot of people have a tendency to take the commercials they put on TV and put them right back up on YouTube, and that's their YouTube channel. And then the boss comes in and asks Steve, why aren't our videos getting any traffic? Well, because we put up all the commercials. They've seen them all, and none of them are cool. So you guys probably don't know, there's the commercial of the gal in the parking lot who walks up to the Bentley and thinks it's her car, and it's not, and she just saved a bunch of money on her cell phone. Can anybody tell me who the company is? Cool commercial, right? Over 1 million views on YouTube. Not a single person in this room knows what company that is. Something missed there. They reposted the commercial, which is great. Little branding problem in that commercial. What's that? Close, but no cigar. I believe it's Net 10. Net 10 Wireless. Again, blogs and guest blogging. This is a huge component of it. Jim will dive into this later. But blog often, early and often. Reach out, guest blog. You guys have lots of industry acquaintances and friends. Get out there. They'll invite you to write a post. Google loves it when there are more than half a dozen authors. Actually, they love it when there's more than one author on a blog. Blogging's not that complicated. Get out there, have some fun, do some things. Use the business, use what you learn, but get out there and guest blog. Listen and learn. Again, it comes back to your plan, and it gets activating that plan. What are we writing and when? If we have something that we need to go back to that we've approved as an organization, that here's our plan. We're going to write 6 blog posts a month to start. We're going to try and get up to 12 long term, and here's some of the content we want to use. Great. Think about what else you're doing with that content. How are we repurposing? What are we turning that stuff into? And who's going to get the message? All right, a couple of closing slides. Remember, no gimmicks. The idea is we're not here to sell stuff, although we are. And it's not that I'm not really selling you something, but I'm going to sell you something. That doesn't work either. People sniff that out. I sniff it out all the time. Be genuine. Be out there, okay? And, I lost this again. Put your plan together. Ultimately, the plan is what you're going to act against. If your plan is fractured, or if you only got one part of it and you're out there on Twitter representing your company, well, you're leaving 3/4 of this market open. There's a lot more you can be doing. You can be broadening your horizons, increasing corporate visibility, and really moving some things forward that way. And that's it. If you have follow-ups, you can talk to Natalie, who's back there, or myself. You can find us. You can find our information on the interwebs as well. Any questions, Jim? I've got 2 questions in my pocket, but I wanted to see if there are any questions on the floor first before I do that.
Any questions for Steve?
Tumbleweeds are never good.
Question. Staffing. All this information's coming in. You need interaction. You need people on site to answer.
Call these guys, no. No. Staffing is tricky. You have to have a team that's watching. You have to have a team, can they watch and respond? We have people trained just to watch. I've got a team of 4 people that simply watch what's going on for customers. We do something called local review management as well. So we collect reviews from Yelp, Google Places, Yahoo, CitySearch, Insider Pages. We monitor those for customer sentiment, and we respond to those customers. I've got a team of 4 people that simply monitors those and escalates if there's a problem. So staffing can be tricky. It's start small, understand what your needs are. Who do you have on your team, and how do you plan for it? So anybody can go out on Twitter is the old rule, but you know what? I've seen more companies fail by putting interns on Twitter. Just go make noise. Okay, that's all you did. Godspeed. Anybody else?
Any guidelines with regards to blogging, the frequency?
It depends on the space you're in and the audience you're trying to reach. Once a week is fine, depending on how small the niche is. You know, once every couple of weeks works as well. It really depends. If you're only blogging and that's all you're doing, then you're probably not doing enough. You could write once a week or once every 2 weeks if you're complementing that with Twitter and LinkedIn activity, because you're reaching your audience again. And by complementing that with Twitter and Facebook or LinkedIn, I'm not saying just take your blog post and repost it. I have a customer, and I can't unfriend her on Twitter, on LinkedIn, or on Facebook. And I kid you not, I get crap from her 10 times a day. And I can't get rid of her. Like, oh, I just want to unfriend. Please, unfollow. Can't do it. It's bad. But she does that. Everything she does, she's got robots reposting stuff. That's another do not do. Don't use robot repost. You can plug them in on your WordPress blogs, and they'll repost to all of your social media venues if you want. And all it's going to say, Steve Krull wrote this. Here it is. Click on the link. There's no personality to it. Sometimes it works, but don't do it for everything or add personality to it. Scanning once before I hit the cards. How do you identify connectors in social media? Is focus on them really more effective? Absolutely. Connectors and influencers, if you can, and when you're doing your audience analysis and you're finding these people, be it you're buying research or you're going out and doing your own homework for who the influential bloggers are, who the influential folks are on Twitter. Connect with these people. These people are influencers. They move information. There are tweet reach studies. There's a site called Tweet Reach. You can find out how popular people are, what their impact is. We were solving a problem for Lane Bryant a couple of years ago, and we looked at the reach of the people who were involved. It was enormous. So you look at the reach of your audience, you'll identify your connectors and your influencers that way. They're absolutely necessary. Identifying those folks up front. If I could find 10 connectors or influencers or 1,000 followers, I'm taking the 10. There's a lot more weight there. Do you think Facebook or Twitter in their present form will be the future? If not, what will it look like? There's a short answer that I gave Jim on this earlier. It's called Google+. It really depends on what you subscribe to. If you think about Facebook right now, they're changing, right? They want to be a little more in a search game. 850 million users. Some crazy percentage of people use the site every day to find friends and information or where the next barbecue is. In my opinion, Facebook has to do some things with the way they manage search and how they monetize it, but you talk about that captive audience of Facebook. It can't continue to live in that incarnation. What's it going to become? Well, they tried to do the local thing. It's kind of They're trying to do sort of an instant message thing like Twitter, and it's kind of They're doing a lot. They'll be there for a while. They're not going away. They're too big to go away, and too many of us use them. Now, if you want to talk international, in terms of international social media sites, there's some other plays out there. If you go to Russia or China, there's other social media plays, and they're pretty significant. Are there search engines too? Baidu is a huge search engine. We don't use it. We don't hear about it. We optimize for it because we have customers that need to, right? So we look international because international travelers come from Baidu search. So you look for that stuff. So it's not just about Facebook, but Facebook will be around a while. Twitter, I can't tell you about Twitter. Maybe Jim has some more insight on Twitter. Twitter is one of those things that to me is still sort of that weird anomaly. We can get some information, we can answer some questions, we can ask some questions. You can do a lot on Twitter. I myself have, there's utility there, absolutely, to help reinforce your message and help move the message a little bit further or draw it back or add color to a message. There's plenty of opportunity for that. As far as the long term of Twitter, well, they'll be around for as long as their venture money lasts, right? I don't know beyond that. In my, looking at it from an industry side of things, they do have an advertising platform now, but they're still not really making any money. They continue to hope to. But I'll tell you this, we spend a few bucks on Twitter for customers. There's sponsored tweets. You can get Mike Tyson to tweet for you if you want to pay a couple of grand. It's out there. Lindsay Lohan will tweet for me if I wanted to. So you can do all those wonderful things if you want to. It depends what your target market is and who you're trying to reach. All right, I think I'm done unless there are any more questions. I'm going to give this back to Jim to give to Jim. Thank you.